Cyborgs walk the streets. Cars fly between skyscrapers, nano-computers are embedded in people's brains, and the human body is almost invulnerable. The future has arrived, but not only thanks to advanced technology. Music has also helped as well. The cyber era came about very quickly, thanks to a crazy and fearless rock musician who turned his bones into metal. By 2040, doctors have already learned to make complex changes to people's bodies. But no one has dared to replace an entire skeleton with metal. They're afraid even to try. Metal is an alien substance, and people assume the patient's body would just reject it. The world needs someone who has enough courage to try. Meet Mel Metal, the lead singer of the world-famous metal band Iron Heart. He lost his popularity many years ago. No one listens to rock music in 2040. So Mel wants to do something so unusual that the world will remember him forever. One evening, he comes up with an idea that he should become a metal guitarist, literally. Mel withdraws all his savings from his bank accounts and takes the cash to a medical clinic. The doctor suggests making him a skeleton out of carbon fiber. The material is much stronger, lighter, and blah blah blah. That sounds boring, Mel says. He wants the skeleton to be made from titanium. Why? Because it sounds awesome, but also because it's very strong and light, and doesn't rust. By the way, titanium is also used today to make artificial limbs, as well as special plates that replace bones. It's non-toxic and doesn't have any chemical reactions with organic tissues. The process will take a lot of work though. Before the operation, Mel needs to improve his immune system so that his body will accept the new skeleton. Daily runs, proper nutrition, lots of vitamins. All this is an ordeal for an aging rock star. After 2 months, Mel is ready for surgery. Titanium has much greater density than bone. If they create an exact metal copy of his skeleton, then Mel will find it really difficult to move because his skeleton will be much heavier. So the metal bones are going to be created out of tubes made from thin layers of metal. That way, the weight will be the same as Mel's skeleton. Mel's entire body is scanned to recreate an exact model of his skeleton on a computer. Then the doctors create 206 exact copies of all his bones with a 3D printer, all made from titanium. Mel lies down on the operating table, receives a big anesthetic, and passes out. The most difficult part of the operation is not replacing the bones, but the spinal cord transplant. The metal skeleton uses receptors that connect up to the spinal cord and create a link between the brain and the human body. Each metal bone is covered with artificial organic tissue, so that the muscles and cartilage can be joined to the metal. The doctors begin replacing one bone with another, one at a time. Replacing just one bone is an operation in itself. They perform the 206 operations over an entire month. That's about 7 operations per day. During this time, Mel is kept alive with nutrients through a tube in his stomach. Finally, the operation is over, and it's a complete success. 3 hours later, Mel wakes up and feels full of energy. He can't wait to test out his new skeleton, so straight away he hits the wall with his fist as hard as he can. But nothing out of the ordinary happens. Mel still feels real pain because his nerve endings are the same. The wall doesn't take any damage because the actual weight of his bones hasn't changed at all. Although if Mel hit it that hard with his old hand, the regular bones would probably have been broken. And this is the coolest thing about Mel's new titanium skeleton. His bones are basically invulnerable. Fractures are much less likely. The most damage he can experience is if his bones become bent. But the doctors would be able to bend them back into shape easily enough. When Mel realizes all this, he has the idea of jumping to the ground from a high altitude, like a superhero. Luckily though, the doctors remind him that his muscles and ligaments are just the same as before, and he could be seriously injured. The first days after the operation, Mel takes some time to get used to his new skeleton. It's become a little difficult to move because titanium isn't as flexible or elastic as natural bone. Metal bones experience about 1.5 times greater stress than ordinary ones, but the titanium is 5 times stronger, so the increased load isn't a problem for it. Although normal bones can recover from fractures, whereas metal bones can't. If Mel has a really bad accident, he'll need to spend a lot of money to get his new bones fixed. As the days pass, Mel gradually gets used to his new skeleton and even writes a new album. He begins to notice unusual changes to his body. It becomes stronger, hardier, faster. His brain works better, his reactions have become quicker. In fact, all of his senses have improved. An ordinary person's skeleton gets a lot of vitamins and minerals to help it function. But Mel's new skeleton doesn't need any of that stuff, so all these useful substances go to different parts of his body. Mel's brain and muscles are getting an extra supply of vitamins. He'll probably live longer. Without much training, Mel can now run a long marathon or swim several miles. But sports records don't interest him. Mel has always loved creativity and art. He's a rock star after all. Mel has always played his guitar a lot, but he doesn't like using a guitar pick. Instead, he plays with his fingers. Over time, the nerve endings in his fingers became damaged. But that was before he got a metal skeleton. Now he plays his guitar so hard that the strings can't withstand it and often snap. With all that strength, he could probably be a superhero. But Mel just wants to be the greatest metal star of all time. And because he now has a metal skull, Mel is able to perceive music better and feel the vibration of sound waves. 3 months after the operation, he records a brilliant album that conquers all the music charts. He and his band set off on a world tour. And now, one of Mel's biggest problems is getting through the metal detectors at airports. Mel often has to take off most of his clothes just to prove he's not carrying anything. At his first concert as a metal rock star, Mel now puts on an incredible show. The fans scream with delight. Like a real rock star, Mel decides to do something mad. Breaking guitars has always been very rock and roll, but Mel takes things even further. His teeth are now made of titanium, one of the strongest metals on the planet. Mel bites off a piece of his guitar, chews it, and spits it out. Piece by piece, he chews up his instrument. The fans are shocked, but they love it. Clouds gather over the stadium and a thunderstorm begins to pour down. Mel's playing the most difficult part of a song on a new guitar, and right at that moment, he's struck by lightning. Everyone stands still, shocked. The smoke clears. Mel's lying on the stage. Everyone is scared. But then, after a few seconds, Mel lifts his arm. Sure, he got slightly burned, but he's alive and full of energy. Titanium doesn't conduct electricity very much, so the charge didn't do much damage. Mel's comeback concert changes everything. The recording of it goes viral. Lots of people now decide to get metal skeletons. Because of the competition among medical companies, prices for the operation go down. Lots of people are now living longer. People have fewer injuries and get sick less often. Many choose to cover their muscles with metal fibers with the help of nanotechnology. Thanks to this, ordinary people have become superhuman. They can punch through walls with their fists, jump from really high up without hurting themselves, and even lift cars. Soon enough, people learn to combine their metal skeletons with digital technology. Now, the cyber era has truly begun.